Good day, everybody. I'm here with my buddy Ali. He's going to help me out, but I'm going to put him inside in a minute because he likes the attention. But this is Behind the News with John Seiler, and we're going to have a couple good discussions today. So stick around for the end. It shouldn't be too long, but one is on Iran and Kurdistan, which I'm going to explain, a very interesting thing. And the other one is on the Federal Reserve Board and the problems Trump is having with it, and how the real problem is the decline in the value of the dollar against gold, which is 70% in 1 year since Trump was there. 70% it went down. That's the real cause of inflation. So I have some good charts for you, but I'll be right back in 1 minute. Okay, I'll leave this. Sorry for the interruption. The first thing is on Iran. It looks like Trump might be attacking them, although I think, and possibly with Israel, or they would be coordinated. But it may take a while to get our troops in the area and the ships, the aircraft carriers to go over there. And the Venezuela intervention went pretty well, all considered so far, but it could go bad fast. But that means they can concentrate now on Iran. But I want to talk not so much about the attack per se, but about the Kurds. You might have heard of the Kurds. I'll show you. Here's a picture that I got here. Uh, see this map? It's called Kurdistan, the kind of light colored area, the light color of brown orange, and the dark color is the area around there. But the Kurds are the largest people in the world with no state of their own. They have no government of their own, uh, and they always want one though. And they're really involved in it because they're spread out among 4 countries: uh, Iraq and Turkey, largely Turkey, and Iran, which we're talking about, and Syria. So the problem with it is they want a state, and they're part of these other states. So let me explain first about them. I met with some Kurdish American group in 2006 when I was at the Orange County Register. I'm still with the Register, but everybody works from home. But back then we worked in the big orange building over on 625 North Grand Avenue, which is still there. If you're in Orange County, you can drive by it. At one time we had like 2,600 people working there, and now it's just empty. But I talked to a construction worker there recently, and he said they might be making condos out of it. So I could get a condo there in my old office. That'd be pretty cool. Remember old times? Anyway, I met with these Kurds. There was two Kurdish men from Iraq, the Kurdish area of Iraq, and there was a young American woman, about 25. She's good looking, and so I remember her. And so we were talking about it all the time, and they were from Iraq because remember that time we were in the Iraq War. Bush's Iraq War went badly already by then, but in the Kurd area, it was going well. They liked us, and they were still part of Iraq for various reasons, but they were uh, telling me how they all believe in democracy and liberty and freedom and free markets. They knew we were a libertarian newspaper editorial page, so they were well read on that. So they were polishing me up a little bit. But then, and they were talking about all these great things they're doing. They sort of cooperate with the central government in Baghdad, but they're really kind of independent, and they're working with the American troops and everybody. And so at one point, I look at the young woman and the other two, and I said, "You guys really just want your own country, don't you?" And they just kind of smiled. They didn't answer because that's the ultimate thing that it is. They have 40 million Kurds in that area, and it's the biggest group in the world with no country of their own. For comparison, Poland has about 40 million people. They have their own country. For a while, they were partitions like this, like the Kurds. The Poles were from around 1798, I think it was. They were partitioned among Prussia with a P, and Russia with an R, and also Austria-Hungary. Uh, and they didn't like that. They still resent it too, especially the Russians. Uh, that's another story. But the point is that the Kurds want their own area. Now, let's turn to Iran. There's some indications there people are protesting, but I've seen other ones where they say the protests, the government has their own protests. A million people in the streets in Tehran saying, go Ayatollah Khamenei, we love you," and all that stuff. Well, who knows what's going on there? We'll find out soon enough, I guess, if we bomb them. But for now, there's these protests, and something like 2,000 people have been killed there. But before we go on that, let's look at this other story I have here about the Kurds. I remember this when it happened, and something like 2,000 or 3,000 or maybe 5,000 people have been killed in Iran by the Ayatollahs and their secret service, the protesters. But here we go. This shows a Kurdish village. You can see the village. It's been destroyed. It was depopulated by Turkey. This is from Wikipedia. The number of Kurdish villages depopulated by Turkey is estimated at around 3,000. In 1984, since 1984, the Turkish military has embarked on a campaign to eradicate the Kurdistan Workers' Party. By the year 2000, some 30,000 people had died and 2 million Kurdish refugees had been driven out of their homes into cities. Let's go back to this map here. If you see in the Turkish area, most of the Kurds are in Turkey. And so we didn't know anything about it, of course, but protested because Turkey's part of NATO. And when this started in 1984, that was still the height of the Cold War. We had some big problems with the Soviet Union, and the dictator over there, the boss was I forget, was it the last one was Chernenko before Gorbachev. Before Gorbachev made some reforms, because they had these three old guys that are kind of like Biden. They had Brezhnev, and he died, and then they had Yuri Andropov, the KGB boss, and then he died, and then they had Chernenko, and he died. Finally, in '85, they got Gorbachev. Anyway, so we have this problem here. If Iran, let's say Iran falls apart. By the way, I'm in favor of Iran liberalizing, having elections, having their parliament more active, become more of a secular kind of society. I'm all for that, but they need to do it on their own without us meddling in the country or bombing them. Because what happens if the country falls apart? Then the Kurds over here in Iran are going to say, we want our own country. They get their own country. Oh, by the way, Iran is only about 50% Persian. The other half is like Azeris and Balukis over in the east by Afghanistan, and a bunch of other people, Arabs, Iraqi type Arabs, and then these Kurds. And the Kurds. Oh, one more thing about the Kurds is the Kurds are not Arabs and they're not Turks. They are Indo-European people. Like if, as the as the words say, from Europe to India, there's a group of people with similar languages. English actually is related to Hindu, which is spoken in India, and Urdu, which is close to the same language in Pakistan. So, and it's also related to Iranian and to the Kurdish language and other languages in that area. So, and the Kurds are largely Sunni Muslims, whereas the leadership in Iraq or rather in Iran is Shiite Muslim, and in Turkey they're mostly Shiites too. But so it was the Shiites in Turkey killing the Kurds, the Shiite Kurds in Turkey during this thing in 1984 to 2000. They killed 30,000 of them, so it's a problem. But okay, let's get back to what if the Kurds separate from Iran. Iran breaks apart into all these different little countries, and the Kurds get their country. Well, guess what? The next thing they're going to do is go with the Kurds in Iraq because they're right next door. Those are the people I met. They're already quasi-independent. They're still quasi-independent from the Baghdad authorities. They have some kind of cooperation. but they're mostly independent. So then you got a little bigger Kurdistan, and then they're going to go with the ones in Syria. Our American troops are in the Kurdish area of Syria right now. You remember Syria broke up. Basically, in the northwest is Turkey, has that area. The west has the Russians. They have an air base and a naval base there. They're with the Alawites. And then in the south, Israel has a part of it, and we have this Kurdish area in the northeast. And in the center is the guy Giuliani that Trump met with, the head chopper. He chops off everybody's heads, Christians and the Alawite group of Muslims, and anybody he doesn't like. He's a religious guy. So this is kind of ironic too, because we're in cahoots with the religious leader in Damascus who kicked out the secular guy, uh, Assad. He's over in Russia. But now we're upset with Iran because they have a religious theocracy over there, and we want them to have a more secular government. So it just doesn't make any sense what they're doing. So let's get back to it. So let's the Kurds become independent in Iran. They join up with the ones in Iraq, and then the ones in Syria. Then they're going to want to join up with the ones in Turkey, and then Turkey's going to start killing people again because they're not going to let that happen. And Turkey is a NATO member. So what does that mean? We're already ticking off NATO over trying to steal Greenland from Denmark, which is one of our oldest allies. They helped us form NATO. They're one of the original NATO members in was it 47 or 48? So we're going to have NATO problems too if this thing all goes under, because Turkey has pretty good relations with Iran, and they're going to work with the Iranian government to make sure the Kurds do not separate, which means they're going to help keep Iran together. They're going to be on the side of the Ayatollahs to make sure Iran does not, the regime there does not get toppled. And Turkey is our ally still in in NATO, so it's just a big mess. The people don't. Is anybody in Washington thinking that? I read these guys like Glenn Beck. He's all cheering it on. Okay, Glenn, do you know Persian? Do you know Kurdish? Do you know anything about this? You know anything about Kurdistan? What a mess that would be. And then when we send troops over there again and have your children get killed, Trump says no boots on the ground in Iran. Okay, maybe not now, but what if it all falls apart? And that's what we're talking about in that. So now let's talk about the Federal Reserve Board. This headline behind the news. Oh, by the way, like and subscribe. Put a comment down there. We had some good comments last time when I was talking about stuff. About that was about Iran too a little bit. So, oh no, it was about mostly about Venezuela. Okay, so here we go. Financial Times. I like reading this paper. They have a kind of different perspective. They're still interventionist, but I'm not. Former Fed chiefs attack, quote, emerging market style, unquote, investigation of Powell. Fears for policy independence. Economists and advisors join rebuke. Trump denies knowledge of probe. All right. But okay, here's the problem here. The Fed shouldn't exist. Ron Paul is right, and the Fed. But the economist Milton Friedman, he was a free market guy too. I met him once. One of the smartest people I ever met. Really got it up here. Plus, he could explain things for editorial writers, which is pretty tough because we're at a lower level. Anyway, the problem is not the low interest rates that Trump wants. That's not what's causing the inflation crisis, the affordability crisis, everybody says. The problem is they're pumping too much money into the system. The Federal Reserve Board is. That's why gold keeps going up. And I have these two charts here. Okay, this is a good one. This is today the price of gold from a year ago when Trump took over, almost exactly a year when he took over. And look at this gold. It's gone up 69.58%. So let's say 70% in 1 year, the price of gold. There we go. See that chart? I hope these are coming off okay. It went way, way up, way, way up. If you bought gold, you'd be making some good money. But the problem is this chart, because we look at it and we say gold went up, but really the problem is the dollar went down. Gold is the real currency. Gold is the gold standard. Gold, some economists call it the Polaris. You know, when you're sailing, you look up the Polaris. It's where it is. It's always there. And so I flipped the chart, and here's what the dollar really did. The numbers are backwards too, but here's what the dollar did against gold. See that? The dollar went down that incredible amount against gold. Gold went up 70%, and gold and the dollar went down an equivalent amount. That's why we're going to have inflation. And they're saying today it was only another 2.7% last month. But the numbers are all cooked. There's a site called Shadow Stats that explains that. Really, the number is double that. Inflation really is like 6%. And they're doing some work on the plumbing here. Anyway, so that's what's really causing the inflation, this gold standard, which we should be on. And if you look at when Reagan was president, we had extremely good growth with no inflation. Gold was steady at about $375 $375 an ounce. And it went up a little bit, and it went up a little bit like that because the Federal Reserve Board is the one that can adjust that. If it goes up too high, then they reduce the money supply, goes back down. Goes down too much, then they pump more money in because the economy is growing. It needs money to be spread around. So then it goes back up. But not now. It's just going up and up and up. And Trump doesn't know that. Years ago, he said he believed in the gold standard, but as we know, we've watched him now 10 years, he said something about everything. At some point, he probably said the sun rises in the west because his golf courses are out there or something. But I have another comparison here for you. This is really good. I got some of these new quarters somewhere. Too much junk in my pocket. Okay. These shiny new quarters today. Got them. Nice quarters. And they have something now where they have American women on the back, famous American women. And this one is an astronomer, Vera Rubin, Dr. Vera Rubin. She did some work on black holes, which was kind of interesting. I followed astronomy as an amateur for years. And they're doing these famous women one. They should do one on my mom. She was a great woman. Thanks for everything, Mom. Great mom. But okay, I bring this out because these quarters, as you can see, and I'm sure you've noticed, they have mostly copper in the middle. And I think it's nickel on the outside. So there used to be silver. When I was a kid, they had silver quarters and silver dollars too, but a silver quarter. And I looked it up. A silver, if you have one of those silver quarters, it's worth $16 today just for the silver content, the silver in it. Not this. The silver content is worth $16, and there's some of them have numismatic value if they're in really good shape. I used to collect coins years ago when I was a kid. Should have kept the quarters I had. Anyway, that's an increase. I checked it out, 16,300%. 16,300% increase since when we went off the gold standard in 1971. And then I looked it up too. At that time, the price of gold in the 60s, before Nixon took us off gold, was $35 an ounce. $35 an ounce. And today, from the chart here, where is it? Oh, okay. Today it's $4,593. It keeps going up and up and up. So that's an increase of 13,000%. 13,000% since Nixon took us off gold in 71. And you can look at it and look at how close that is. It shows why we should be on the gold standard. A quarter of silver back then went up 16,000%, 16,300. And if you had an ounce of gold then, it went up 13,000%. Those are very close for this kind of work. 16,300% versus 13,000%. So that shows what happened to our money. They're just eroding it, and we're just going to have inflation until this ends. Trump is going to be yelling about the Democrats and the Federal Reserve Board, and the Democrats are going to say it's all Trump's fault from the tariffs. But the tariffs were offset by by the income tax cuts and the cuts in regulations, which have been really good. So the balance there overall is good. The tariff cuts, the tariff increases were more than offset by the income tax cuts and the regulation cuts. But the problem is, because we're not on a gold standard, it's going to keep going up and up and up. Let's see where it is a year from now. We'll see it. So that's what I have for you now. Let me see if I can get Ali again. Oh, he's inside. Anyway, we saw him earlier, and I have these. I give him these Ali um, these Ali treats. So check them out. I have a link in the description. So remember to like and subscribe this. I hope you find it a bit of interest, and put a comment in there, and check out my Substack too, where I'm going to be doing something with the gold standard soon. johnseiler.substack.com. So let me. Oh, there he is. Okay, Ali, come here, Ali. Come here. Oops. Ali always wants to get in on the act. Today it's 77 degrees here in Orange County. It's just a beautiful day out, and sometimes I miss the snow back in Michigan, at least when I was a kid. I'd play in the snow, and my father had to shovel the snow until I was older. Then we did it. Kids did it. There we go, Ali. Come home, and Mom had some chocolate milk and cookies. Those are good times in Michigan. Okay, great. Bye. Say bye, Ali. Everybody have a great day.